In the past, when people were just starting to live on Earth, a terrible event was about to change everything about life on Earth. It wasn't just a storm that was going to clean up the Earth. God would decide who would make it and who would be left behind. Noah, his family, and pairs of every kind of animal were among the picked. The Nephilim, on the other hand, were clearly left out. Have you ever thought about why, out of all the animals that were saved, one chose to stay where it was and face the flood? We will find out the answer by going to the strange and disputed world of the Nephilim. These beings were born from the illegal union of the sons of God, angels who had left their heavenly home, and the daughters of man. They were huge and strong, and just being around them made people afraid. When the Nephilim were around, there was a time of spiritual decline and corruption. Their violent and controlling actions broke down the moral and spiritual order of the time in a big way. The animals said that the earth was full of violence because of them, which led God to decide to destroy the evil that was destroying people and only forgive those who are still pure. Even though things were crazy, Noah stood out as a good and honest person. He wasn't picked at chance to lead the plan of rescue. It was a sign of hope that good people could still win. Noah and his family were told to build the ark, which was a huge ship that would protect future generations. Not only did this show his faith and loyalty, but it also showed that he could lead and encourage people when they were down. Building the ark was an amazing task that came with both practical and moral difficulties. So that biological variety would be kept, Noah had to pick which animals he would kill. Each choice showed a deep respect for all living things and a care for the world. At the same time, the Nephilim, who had no hope of being saved, would face the flood that would end their troubled and controversial life. We can think about fairness, choice, and consequences when we read about the flood and how the Nephilim were thrown out. Noah basically stood for the chance of a fresh start, a chance to change the moral and behavioral rules of all people. The story shows how hard it is for God to make choices and how justice and kindness work together. Even though the Nephilim were not killed, the memory of them and the effects of their actions live on to warn future generations of the risks of breaking the rules and being dishonest. Besides causing damage, the flood was also a very important lesson about what limits should not be crossed and how important it is to keep moral and spiritual unity. Please leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell if you are enjoying this journey through stories of faith and perseverance. That way, you won't miss any details of this great tale. Feel free to leave a super thanks if this story moves you and you want to support this work. We can keep telling more Bible stories and spreading this message of faith and hope thanks to your donation. Thank you so much for your help. As the story of this amazing event is told again. Once the Nephilim were let out of their prison and the ark was finished being built, a new part of the story of Noah and his family began. There is a divine reveal and a strange call at this time that we can't fully understand. God, who made the whole world, picks Noah not only to build with, but also to work with him on one of the biggest ideas ever, to start over with creation. God says to Noah in a simple way that hides a lot of meaning: go. This one word is not only an order, but also a call to enter a holy place of safety during a huge storm. Noah, his wife, his 3 kids, and their wives are all invited. A family that has been picked to be the center of a new kind of humanity. Many people may have thought that Noah's spirit might have been harmed or worn down by the 120 years it took to build the ark. But Noah's loyalty and strength did not waver. This was a true reflection of his great character and his faith in God. A very important part of the story is how God made sure the Nephilim did not get into the ark. These evil people, who represent rot and chaos, will face the flood, which will end all of their bad effects on earth for good. As God made his choice, he was both punishing evil and making sure that the new world that would come after the flood would be safe. Before the flood, the ark becomes a place where people from all walks of life can gather. All kinds of animals find their way to the safety zone with the help of a holy force. The fact that everyone saw this event is a clear sign that the revival is about to happen. Noah and his family get inside the ark, and then, as a final and symbolic act, God shuts the door of the ark. And the fact that God shuts the door is not just a physical act, it makes a strong point. There is no going back from this point on. It marks the end of an era and the start of a new one. The ark goes from being just a place to hide to a haven of life that keeps the purity needed to build a new world at that very moment. As the water rose and covered the mountains, killing all living things on land, it became clear how bad God's punishment was. Every living thing outside the ark seemed to leave Noah and his small group as if they were relics from a long time ago. Not only did this terrible event get rid of the physical evil that the Nephilim and others were doing, but it also got rid of all spiritual and moral rot on earth. The flood story and Noah's trip are more than just stories about how people managed to stay alive. They are thoughts on fairness, forgiveness, and the chance of starting over. We are asked to think about our own morals and what we can do to keep our lives and the world around us fair and clean through this story. After the flood, the ark landed on solid ground, and Noah led the people who were inside it out into a world that had been completely changed. The land was fresh, and there were hopes for a fresh start. But the survivors' stories and fears about the Nephilim and other monsters from the past continued to live on in their children and grandchildren. Even though the Nephilim were no longer seen in the real world, their story lives on in myths and tales. Later in the Bible, when Moses sent spies to explore the Promised Land, they talked about them again. This shows that memories stay the same. Because their problems were so big, these spies may have put their doubts and fears onto the people who lived there by calling them giants like the Nephilim. This story shows how powerful stories based on fear can be, and it also serves as a warning of what happens when you don't believe. The group that left Egypt lost faith, even though they had seen wonders and felt God's protection. They were punished by God by being forced to wander in the desert for 40 years. This was both a penalty and a cleansing. Only Joshua and Caleb, the loyal spies, were left to lead the next generation to the Promised Land. No, Noah's story doesn't end when the water goes away. It has been used over and over again as a sign of hope, persistence, and unshakable faith. Noah stood out in a bad situation, not only for being good, but also for keeping his faith even when people didn't believe in him or laughed at him. His ark was more than just a way to save people physically. It became a symbol of moral and spiritual hope. What we can learn from Noah's story is how important it is to stay honest and have faith even when things look bad. He showed that real faith is more than just sitting back and not doing anything. It takes action, guts, and the will to keep going even when the road is unclear and the load is heavy. We too can start over and find hope in our lives, just like Noah did after the storm. Their struggles and successes show us that new dawns can come after the darkest nights. We can get through tough times by keeping our faith strong and being dedicated to doing what is right and moral. This is what the story of Noah and the Nephilim tells us of. Noah taught us to be strong and have faith, and he taught us that there is always hope on the horizon, no matter how big the waves are. When we think about his story, it makes us want to carry our own boat, no matter how rough the water may be, to keep hope alive and sail toward a better and brighter future. We hope this story has moved you and strengthened your faith. If you can relate to Noah's story and the lessons it teaches, please share this movie with your family and friends to spread the message of hope and renewal. Together, we can tell more people about brave and faith-filled stories. Don't forget to like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the bell so you don't miss any of our stories. Thank you for following us to the end of this incredible story. See you in the next video. May God be with you always. Amen.